Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the season's first and hopefully last losing edition of the On My Block podcast. I'm your host, Mike Wahle. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying, hit that subscribe button on our Process to Perform channel on YouTube. You can check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcast across the Believe Network. Find me at MikeWahle68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. Our show is sponsored by BetOnline.ag. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, esports, football, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting in your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your phone. So head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get into the action. And remember, use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Shout out to Vegas, by the way, man. This 1-point game, they call it. Over, under, a little bit off. The spread on this game at the kickoff, I believe, went down from 1.5 to a point for the Falcons. Falcons end up winning this game 25-24. Let's start off with a couple obvious things, before we get into it, because I don't like using injuries as an excuse or anything. But let's face facts. David Bakhtiari doesn't play. Best player on the team. Aaron Jones doesn't play. Second best player. I'm talking about offense. Second best player on offense. Christian Watson doesn't start the game. Most explosive player on offense. Elgin Jenkins gets hurt. He's a Pro Bowl player at left guard. These things do matter. Now, they knew about most of them, so you can game plan around it. Certainly, I don't know if you can game plan around, what the Aaron Jones adds to the offense and what David Bakhtiari adds as far as, force multiplier, things that we talked about before. But certainly, I think you're in a position to do some good things. We had keys to victory last week. And I just wanted to run through them real fast before we get to the tape, because it's sometimes when you're watching this as a coach or a player, you overcomplicate this stuff. And what we try to do on this show is just like, hey, let's make this as simple as possible, guys. You watch the tape. What are they doing poorly? What are they doing well? How do we combat them? First thing, Packers offensively needed to put the Falcons in nickel situations to run the ball. If they ran the ball, especially with Bakhtiari out and Aaron Jones out, if they ran the ball against base defense, that was going to be very, very poor. Okay? We ended up running the ball or tried to run the ball more than a few times against their base. We end up 21 of 84 for 4 yards per carry in total. But if you take out Jordan Love's scrambles, which he had a magnificent scramble on a third down, we're 19 of 61 for a paltry 3.2 yards per carry. Okay? Poor run blocking. Poor, atrocious backside cutoffs by the tight ends have to do better in the run game. But we lost not only with technique this week, we lost in scheme. You lost in game plan, because some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. And you could say, well, Mike, they need to, back in the day, you go, oh, well, we're, especially with a pass happy offense, coordinator or coach goes, we want to run the ball to set up the pass. No, dude. Absolutely not. Not with the first year quarterback and all these young guys on offense as far as skill positions. If you think the strength of your offensive line and your running game, then you cater the running game to win, and then you figure things out. Especially, look, nickel defense in the National Football League is different than it was 20, 30 years ago. You can't press the guy past 5 yards. You can't make any contact with the receiver over the middle. Like it's almost like playing touch football out there in many cases, because of the penalties that will accumulate. So running nickel on nickel is not a big deal anymore. It's not nearly what it used to be, right? I'm not saying the game's easier or anything. I'm just saying the rules are different. So putting a team in nickel and running the ball so you can set up the pass in nickel is better than trying to waste downs, averaging 2 or 3 yards a carry against their base defense, because your base offense, your 21, your 12, your 13 personnel versus their base defense just isn't going to cut it. And that's what we saw in this game. Number 2, Desmond Ridder is still unproven. Certainly the Falcons think they have something there. But we needed to make him sit in the pocket and let that defensive line go to work. Right? Take away the short game. Force passing situations where we 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. What happens in this game? Number 1, our pass rush lanes. We've talked about this a number of times on this show, because this is one of my pet peeves. Our pass rush lanes were very, very poor. Not only did we get too high up the field and let him step up and step away, but we lost contain. Sometimes it looked like Keystone Cops over there. We have guys laying around on the ground. Desmond Ridder's running free out the side. Desmond Ridder's 19 of 32 for 237 and a touchdown and a pick. So he played better even though those stats, in my opinion, because of his elusiveness, because of how he made something out of nothing. The Falcons rushed for 211 yards. Okay, when Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier started getting off like that, Bijan Robinson averaged 6.5 yards a carry. Bijan Robinson had 124 yards rushing by himself. Algier had almost another 50. When you have that problem, 211 yards rushing, 4.7 yards per carry, you're missing tackles, you're getting beat on scheme, meaning that they have more people in better leverage situations than you have on defense. Offensively, they're in a position to win on that. Like a coin flip is going to go to them more often than not. When you're in those situations, you start worrying about the run game and you start losing lane discipline. You start losing this sense of what was going to make you successful in this game. You start doing, you start sending pressure when really a four-man rush should beat these guys. They're not very good. Chris Lindstrom's excellent. He had a bad game last week. He's an excellent player. The rest of these guys are not excellent players. We should have been satisfied, straight rushing, maybe a couple games. That's all you needed if you just rush the way you're supposed to. Like, our good is better than their good. We didn't take advantage of that. And the last key to victory was turnovers. We won the turnover battle. It was only 1-0, but we did win the turnover battle. We actually dropped 2 extra turnovers. Jair and Quay Walker Jair probably had a pick 6 on that 4th down. So it's a turnover one way or another. It's a turnover on downs, but you look at it and you go, could have been something more. So 2 out of those 3, we lose. Keys to victory. Now, from an observation standpoint, just some notes on our defense or their offense. Listen, we talked about it last week. If you put both those dudes in the game, talk about the running backs, Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, you're going to have problems because defenses don't know how to match up from a personnel standpoint, and that Bijan Robinson guy is different. Okay, he makes people – he is different. He's one of those guys back in the day when I was playing, Barry Sanders was playing. I'm not comparing him to Barry Sanders in any way because that's not fair to anybody. But when Barry Sanders was playing, we were playing them, safeties, linebackers, they'd be walking through the tape, the equipment room or the training room. They'd be talking to each other, trying to talk each other up because they knew they were going to miss. They knew they had to take their shot, and they knew their shot was probably going to miss, so you had to make him stop. This is the same kind of guy. This is the kind of guy who the first guy is not going to make the tackle. We said it last week. He proved it on film today. He's special. He's a special, special player. But when you drop those picks, when you don't make the plays, sometimes the plays that you don't make, they end up losing you the ball game, right? Because 25 points in a National Football League game earns you a loss. If you give up 25 points a game, you're going to lose more than you win. 25 points doesn't sound like that much because you see some of these teams scoring 30, 35 points. If you give up 25 points in a game, you're earning yourself a loss, especially against a team that, quite frankly, just shouldn't have been as good as they were. Let's get to some tape here and go through this game kind of sequentially. Love the way they started the game. Sometimes when you run this flea flicker, and I'm showing this play because I want to show this whole sequence of the first series. So they do a great job. They get the PI. I think they get the ball down like the 31, 32-yard line. Okay, so you have this big play to start off the game. But watch what happens for the rest of this series. So the first thing you do is you run against their base defense. Okay? We talked about it. You can run against base. You're gonna average 2 yards a carry, right? It's going to be just a slog fest because when they got those 3 guys in the middle, they got Grady Jarrett, they got Calais Campbell. Those guys are specialists at defeating single blocks. Okay, you can't get a lot of double teams in this situation. They're linebackers who shoot gaps in nickel. All of a sudden, they don't have to shoot, right? They can sit back and make plays. You have your Bud Duprees of the world against your Luke Musgraves. That's not an even matchup yet. This is a problem for the Green Bay Packers, and they start off the game, their first run, base, gets stuffed for a couple yards. AJ is running hard. Listen, for people out there saying that AJ is not running hard, he has his hot and cold moments, but you gotta know what he's good at. You got to put him in situations to be successful. Listen, I know the Packers aren't watching this show and going like, we shouldn't have run base so much, but as an ex-player, ex-coach, when you watch this stuff and you go, listen, they're going to be better than our guys up front at single blocks. If you play base defense and try to if you put them in base defense and try to run the ball, you're going to lose more than you win. And then everyone's surprised where AJ's struggling. It's like, what's the surprise? We averaged 3.2 yards per carry without Jordan Love's scrambles. Why? The same reason we did last week. Average 2.9 yards per carry if you take out a scramble, because we don't do a good job of blocking single blocks. The Falcons did a great job here, so they dropped. So we're looking for Luke Musgrave across the middle. They drop the end. Gets in the way. So now we got a third down. False start by Rasheed Walker. Rasheed Walker starting in place for David Bakhtiari. It happens. Now we got 3rd and 12. And Bud Dupree gets off the ball on the screen real fast here, kind of gets his play screwed up. This is something to look at later on, not only this game, but the rest of the games. You watch this. Bud's watching, obviously, the center, Josh Myers. When Josh's butt drops, head comes up, ball's gone, he's timing this. So as the game goes on, as the season goes on, the Packers need to find a solution for this. This is a very difficult thing for a number of reasons. The reason that a lot of teams decide to have the guard turn around and do the wave is because you're putting Josh Myers in a bad position because he has to reorient himself, his body and everything, and also snap the ball. And this, from a timing standpoint, is just really, really messed up. Like, if anybody stood up right now, put your head between your legs, then put your head back up, drop your butt, and try to throw something back behind you. That whole timing sequence is different, right? You can't do as much with that. You bob your head, you do the left to right. You can do all these different things that make it a little more difficult for the defensive end to time it. This is actually quite easy if they've been watching tape. See how fast Bud Dupree gets off here. Bad situation. Happens fast. He's gone. So they start off with a great play, bad plays, penalties, out of field goal range. Give the ball back to the Atlanta Falcons. We got a 2nd and 1 look now, and I just want to show the first play they give to Drake London, who hadn't had a catch. He gets 9 yards. Kid had a really good day. I love this motion. This motion essentially turns, it's like a speed option, like a jet sweep, and it turns this tight end into like a garbage guy who's essentially, they're zoning off 3-on-3 left guard, left tackle, or zoning off D tackle, defensive end, linebacker. And now they've got this tight end coming in to kind of clean up the garbage. So we run a TE game here, and he just takes a shot on Kenny, knocks him over, and it allows Jake Matthews to rise up to the linebacker. And what a play that, schematically you think, oh, we look pretty good here. He just pushes Devondre Campbell out the way. They get a 1st down, 6-yard carry. It's a really, really good scheme. You see the Niners started to use it a couple of years ago. It's a lot of teams are starting to use it now. This is one of those innovations in the run game that I think the Green Bay Packers could certainly look at and say, why aren't we doing more of this? You see Kenny Clark here taking on the rookie left guard. Leads to the pick by Rasul Douglas. This is what I'm talking about. We're just better than them at these kind of critical positions. And so why are we messing around with any of this stuff? I mean, we got 3 guys. We got 2 guys at the quarterback, and in sign of things to come, I think that's Van Ness up top, or maybe that's Enigbari, but they're already over the top of the quarterback. But pressure equals picks. Great job by Kenny Clark. Excellent, excellent play. We go back here. Go back into a base run for a 3-yard gain. Just a tough way. It's a tough way to run. You're trying to run a stretch zone against a 3-yard gain, or against a base look. So you do a pin and pull. And Luke Musgrave is going to be a good player, and he certainly did some good things in the passing game. But technically, he's just not where he needs to be. So what happens? He doesn't take a first step. False steps here. Turns his shoulders. Lets the guy penetrate. Forces 31 out wide. Flat. So now he's running to his shoulder pads towards the sideline. Rashid can't get out. Or excuse me, that's Yash, because we're switching people mid-series. That's the other thing. Let's just talk about that real quick. As a coaching staff, I can't fathom why you would start switching out left tackles. You already are missing your best player in David Bakhtiari. Why would you switch out players mid-series? In all my years of playing, coaching, just being around the sport, switching in between series, I never really understood. It's like, make a decision and live with it, right? Whoever earned it during the week, let him play. Now, it seemed like Rasheed Walker had earned it. Now they're playing Rasheed Walker in the U-Bacon package, the extra tight end package. So I thought maybe in some situations they were just trying to give him the opportunity to run that, but it wasn't the case. They would just switch in Yash. You start switching these guys mid-series. I just don't know from a performance or rhythm standpoint how that makes any sense at all. But maybe they know something I don't. Great job by the Falcons here of IDing this of masking a blitz that they used last week. Double A gap blitz. Linebackers were walked up in the A's. We had 2 wide 3s and 2 wide 9s. Now they have linebacker up in the plus A, D tackle in the minus A, and now they're just going to send the linebacker into the B gap. And we've got enough people to pick this up, but Dave Bakhtiari's not in the game. So Rasheed Walker, instead of squeezing this because 27 is going to pick up the defensive end, lets him go. Jordan Love's expecting that to get picked up because we're going to try to get the ball out fast here. We're going to have 27 kind of chip and get out. And now, got to punt the ball again. 3rd and 7 look here. And the reason I bring this one up is I just thought, 3rd and 7, the Falcons obviously make a mistake here. Preston Smith is lined up in the back, is lined up as a linebacker. Let me go back to this. Sorry, guys. It ends up coming late. This play takes a little bit too long. Great hit. Great presence by Desmond Ridder here. Obviously getting rid of the ball to Jonnu Smith. Jonnu had a good game. He's a good player. Come back from the Patriots. He's going to be a little more featured now. Kyle Pitts isn't getting a lot of action in this offense right now. I don't know why. I have my theories, but Jonnu Smith's like a true tight end, can run and pass block. Not trying to overuse him. Now, this is one of the problems that happened the entire game. Caleb McGarry got beat really bad last week. Jake Matthews got beat bad last week. And one of the reasons they got beat poorly is because, in particular, let's just look at the right tackle. He turns early, turns his shoulders to the sidelines, and is hoping that you'll just run by like we are right here. I think this is Xavier Bari. You see, he's 5 yards behind the quarterback when the quarterback throws the ball. This is a completely wasted rush. And from a lane discipline standpoint, I don't know if the defensive line coach is teaching this, but I'm just telling you as an offensive lineman, as a tackle, you are hoping that the guys do this every play. The worst thing you could do is make the guy turn and then attack his inside shoulder, collapse the pocket, and make Desmond Ridder feel his presence. So he has to move off his spot. He has to pump the ball. He has to tuck it and run. He has to do something other than have a completely clean pocket because you're 5 yards upfield, right? And this is either being allowed or being taught. I'm not sure which one. Makes no sense. It's not about the play necessarily. It's about how we're kind of going about our business. Savage here. Great. You knocked the guy. He had a 9-yard game. We're trying to talk to him. I think you just get back to the huddle. Tough day all around for the defense. This goal line stand was fantastic. So we get the intercept. We get the pass interference. They get 1st and goal like on the half instead of the 1-yard line. Great job with pressure there. We get a good run stuff. A lot of people showed up right here. And Bari knocks the tight end off the ball. I think that was TJ Slayton doing a good job knocking the guard off. And then we get the next play, Wyatt. Yeah, it was Slayton. The next play, I think Wyatt beats Caleb McGarry backside here with the arm over. Gets a little pressure. Great job. Has to get rid of the ball early. Fantastic, fantastic job. Now we get into the nickel run, okay? And so for everybody sitting at home, what's the difference? 4-man line essentially versus a 5-man line, okay? So you're going to run a 4-2 or they're going to run their 5-2. If you run their 4-2, we're going to get 2 double teams. Their linebackers like to shoot. We get up second level. And this isn't a very clean run, but this is like, when you talk about A.J. Dillon's not running hard, it's like, come on, guys. Guy's running hard. We got people working for him. 9-yard gain. But now we go back to a base run. You see the base run here. You got your 3 down linemen. You got your 2 defensive ends. You got your 2 linebackers up. We got some extra people at the line of scrimmage here because of the proximity of everybody else on the screen for the offense, okay? DeGuara is going to learn a lesson right here that we like to call tuck your ears in. Back in the day when we were teaching kids how to pass rush at UNLV, my best friend in the world, I call him Coach. We used to joke to each other. I'd tag him right in the ear sometimes when he tried to pass rush because he'd leave it exposed. Hey, man, you got to tuck your ears in. All right? That basically means like it's about to happen. You better get ready. Okay? DeGuara is having to run from the backside because this isn't a tough guy thing. This is you're running from the right guard underneath flat, turning the corner and having to meet 55, who's like a 245-pound grown man linebacker, getting a 5-yard head start, and then about to jack you right in the jaw. Okay. So, hey, DeGuara, tuck your ears in, man. This is going to be a bad contact hit for you. He gets absolutely lit up, and Dylan gets stopped. And again, it's like, why isn't AJ running hard? Well, you're giving your fullback, who's new at the position, an underneath run, has to go outside the play side tight end and basically gets a one-step head start, and then turns around and sees 55 coming downhill like a damn raging bull. It's a tough sport. It's a tough sport. Guys can, Lorenzo Neal can do it. I don't know if DeGuara can do it right now. 3rd and 1. Great little play. You see Musgrave's speed here. Okay, so they ran the double A, and now we got on the 3rd and 10 look. We get it picked up with the running back, and because they bring extra, because they're a little bit out of sorts, because they drop a defensive tackle, now Jordan Love's like, all right, I'm out of here. And this is the young quarterback, huge run. There's a 20-yard run. I mean, that bumps up to our running stats to 4 yards a carry from 3.2. Talk about backside blocks. And we talked about if we're going to be in nickel runs, if you want to have success versus these teams, because they do a lot of movement, their linebackers shoot. When you get a double team, like on the backside of this, we have a tackle tight end double team. They're going to the backer. Okay, if the tackle comes off, the tight end has to stay. Now I know that, like, if this is Calais Campbell, I know that he's better than Luke Musgrave. But if you have a double team, we got to be able to stay on the double. This can't happen. Okay, you ask, hey AJ, why aren't you running? Well, because Calais Campbell's 6'8", 200 or 320 pounds, and he just tackled me. He just basically shed 2 blockers. It's not a good job blocking. Now, you want to see a good job blocking? Perimeter blocking. Take 2 here. It's a great job. One, he's not even blocking that guy. He's really getting to the second. Just gets a hand on 55. Is that Torre? Just a great, it's like little things in the game that make the big differences, right? You don't even notice that. But you put in the effort, you get the guy off the spot, you move the cornerback back 5 yards, then you just get a hand to move the linebacker from the 5-yard line down to the 4-yard line. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes to get Jaden Reed his first touchdown. It's fantastic. Fantastic effort. This is what I was talking about. I just talked through this. I'm going to show it again. Okay. This is what I thought was going to happen all day. I thought we were going to see their 2 tackles facing the wrong direction, watching their quarterback get hit all day. Right? Van Ness gets one here. I think this is Preston on the other side. Both guys are beat. This seemed like an easy solution because I think we're too deep at both defensive end or outside linebacker positions that could decisively beat both players on any given play. Didn't happen. I was surprised it didn't happen. So Van Ness gets one there, and then they run a little stunt game, which you love to see. So Van Ness gets another good play here and again, when you think about Van Ness and you think about, what is he capable of doing, the more you get, we did this with Quay last year. The more you get those guys on like stunts and dogs and things that are like predetermined, and it's like you put them in guided missile, right? Let them use their athleticism, and that's the way you get the feel for the game. I think that helps those guys a lot. This is what I'm talking about, though, when you talk about break and contain, okay? So Sean Gary goes inside. I don't know if they're running a TE. I'm not sure what they're doing, but the fact is, you got 5 rushers, and we end up hitting each other, going down, giving Ritter, allows him to break contain. So he goes from, it should be 3rd and 20. Now it's 3rd and 15. Preston's got this guy beat, but they still have time to make the play. So is it any different if it's 3rd and 20 versus 3rd and 15? I know it's a long distance, but these yards, like the yards matter. You can't just act like they don't matter. Oh, they just made a good play. Drake London makes a play in zone coverage here. Jair's going to get some stuff, some feelings in the media, because I think Drake was trying to show him up a couple times. A lot of the stuff was against zone, but it is what it is. It's part of the position. We've seen this before, right? In Green Bay, we've seen this guy before. Whoop, whoop. And I'm talking about, defensively, we're missing some tackles. This kid is something different now. There's been a handful of guys, Percy Harvin. There's a handful of guys that just make people look silly when they got the ball in their hands. Bijan Robinson is a different kind of cat. He is really good. Here we go with contain issues again. Where's the contain issue here? We drop Preston. We loop outside. And instead of staying outside contained, we square up on the tackle, 94. Let's Ritter go out. Rashawn Gary's, he's running for his life, but it's a little play that makes a big difference. Whether it's field position, whether it ends up in a score, it's like the way you do business shows you. Maybe it's not the outcome there, but it's how you're playing. It's who you are. You're putting it on tape. Go back to offense here, and this is what you like about the nickel situation, okay? The nickel situation, they do a lot of slanting, a lot of movement. If you catch them on the backside, so we run the split flow here with the tight end on the top next to the right tackle. You catch them, get Bud low, cut through, easy run. Good job. Good job picking it up. Now, I highlighted the linebacker in green because we pull here. They slant, tight end down blocks. Musgrave just does he does a good job. This is all you do. You just pick up the guy that's in your way. He's supposed to be going to the other linebacker, but if this guy shows up in your path, that's who you take. Zach Tom, who's not used to pulling from the right tackle position, has to make this adjustment, turn tighter, block 55, and we leave the running back on the safety or the corner. Or this is a corner, excuse me. We don't leave the running back for the big linebacker, the big bad linebacker who can make the play. Now, this is one of those things that we talk about. This play only works on paper. What do I mean by that? Well, let me show you. When you're asking Josh Myers to block a 2-eye on a toss play, and the 2-eye or the shit, or what you call it, whatever you want, he's in the gap. It's Grady Jarrett. Josh Myers, can you please reach Grady Jarrett on a toss play to the left? You have no help. We're going to send the guard out to help the tackle, and we're going to send the guard and the tackle up to the linebacker. How's that sound, Josh? I'll get it done. Well, I drew it up on paper, so I know it's going to work because it worked on paper. It only works on paper. Grady beats him easily, ends up making the play, and people go, what's wrong with Josh Myers? Josh Myers can't make that play. I don't know if Jason Kelce can make that play. That's Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett is a dog in this league. And you're going to try to reach him as a 2-eye on a toss play? This isn't Nebraska in the 90s, man. That play only works on pass. That's just not smart. This is a dime pass by Jordan Love. We talked about it before. Jordan Love goes 14 for 25 for 230 for only 151 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And he's like 14 for 25 really isn't that good or bad. It's a good day, but it's not a great day. You want to be, I think 70% is the new criteria. But he's not turning the ball over. And he throws passes like this, and you go, man, the kid's got something. He's not there yet, and we'll see later. There's some things you go, you really need to clean this up. But he's definitely got something. Okay. This is where we're talking about whether it's scheme, whether it's in the position room. Enigbari goes about, let's be courteous and say 260 pounds. Jake Matthews and their new left guard, the second round pick, they probably go cumulatively. Let's just be generous and say they're on a diet. So cumulatively, they're only 630 pounds, maybe 650. So you got 650 or 630 pounds playing against a 260-pound defensive end that they want to double. I'm good with that, actually, because I go, Enigbari puts two hands in the ground. He plays with leverage. He can make this a problem. But if you're going to tell me he's going to stand up in the B gap or play like a 4 technique or a 4-eye in the B gap and ask me what I think is going to happen, he's going to get blown off the ball. I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course this guy's going to run wild. It's like this isn't the fault of, Quay getting off a block or Devondre getting. I mean, Quay had 17 or 18 tackles this game. We can talk about all this other stuff, but it's like if you're going to play a stand-up 260-pound guy and he's going to get slip blocked because he's playing like a 4-4-eye B gap, I can't really tell from this, but he's going to get double teamed by like 650 pounds of angry dude. You're not going to win. You're going to get run over. We're upfield again, Enigbari. Listen, the thing that is sometimes when you lose a game, you're trying to figure out like why you're losing, right? So you're harsh in some of this stuff. But right now, at this you could see it. You could see that Caleb McGarry's already turned. Okay. And he's close to him. And so when you're close, now I can really get that power press and press his inside shoulder. And I can press him towards the quarterback, and I don't have to go upfield. So I could literally just run down the 39-yard line straight down towards the other sideline. And Ritter has nowhere to go. We don't lose contain. We don't overrun the top. Like this stuff to me is why you lose football games. A lot of people point to, I don't like the scheme. I don't like the system. This to me is why we lose football games. And I'm saying we, but the collective, any game I've ever played, any game I watch, when you do stuff like this against good NFL players, you create the conditions for losing football. Breaks contain. Pitts on one of his 2 catches. So now we get to this is a 4th and 1. And I wrote leverage because if you look at this screen, and I didn't want to put up a million circles, but the outside receiver has leverage on anybody on defense. The inside receiver, I'm going from bottom to top now. The inside receiver has leverage on anybody on defense except for the corner. The tight end or fullback in the backfield that's standing over the right tackle has leverage on Devondre Campbell and is going to have leverage on Darnell Savage if he comes down, because it doesn't take as long for him to get to the line of scrimmage as it will Savage. So we can talk about the Green Bay Packers not defeating blocks, or they're set up to lose this, just in the way that the scheme designed by the Atlanta Falcons. This is a really good play. So Savage comes in like a missile right here. And he could come tighter but whatever. But he doesn't do anything wrong here. It's just they are outmanned. They are out leveraged. This is a very well-designed play we didn't have an answer for. Base runs, single blocks. So you see your 3 down defensive lineman. This puts our tight end versus one of their stand-up outside linebackers, defensive ends, whatever you want to call them. And I bring it up because this is a losing play, right? We're just not equipped to do this yet, okay? We need to get a guy in there that can do this at a higher level, because now he's banging into the fullback. There's not a, you just see there's a cascade of problems, and whoever the running back is here, now he could cut back, and you kind of see that Rasheed Walker might get the backside guy, but you just kind of look at this, and they're fighting for every square inch of real estate because you've got guys resetting the line of scrimmage right off the jump. Now you've got just a gaggle of people on these one-on-one blocks. And you've got two young guys in there. So the defensive tackle wins his individual matchup. That's Grady Jarrett again. Makes the play. And again, that's why, that's why you don't run against base defense if you can avoid it. Create a better environment for your team. You got a 1st and 10 look here. Great under center play action pass. Those linebackers are still square to the line of scrimmage, right? So you just have space now. You feel good about the space you have. Great protection, great run and catch. And then, man, how about this kid coming out of nowhere? Rookie, making plays, exciting. I don't know. I went on like 4 radio shows last week for Atlanta. I was like, I don't understand the Kyle Pitts thing because I think he's super talented, but like he can't block. Like where do you put his slot receiver? I'm like, no, he's improved his blocking. So then I see these playing against Lucas Van Ness right here. And like one of the things we thought about Lucas, I think coming out was, listen, he might not have pass rush moves yet. He might not, but at the very least, you put him in a 3-point stance, he's going to knock the hell out of a tight end and make plays, right? So I'm only going to show you one of these, but dude, Kyle Pitts just manhandles him right there. And the next play wards him off as well. Like Kyle does a good job. I got to eat crow. And really, it's part of it's because I think Van Ness shouldn't be playing in a 2-point all the time, whatever. But like those kind of things, that can't happen. And when we start talking about reverting to the mean with this run defense, there's a lot of missed tackles. It seems like there's a lot of when you see plays like this, and there's always a lot of guys kind of running past the ball. Oftentimes, what you think to yourself is, okay, are they taking an angle and trying to make the guy cut instead of going through the blocker and trying to make him stop? Right? There's a difference between me seeing a blocker right in front of me and going, you know what, I'm taking this guy head on and I'm going to move him backwards because that is what is going to make the running back slow down behind the line of scrimmage. And then there's another thought process of, well, I don't necessarily want to make that contact, so I'm going to like skirt in front of him and I'm going to make this running back cut, but he doesn't necessarily have to slow down. And I think that's a big, at least thought process as the Packers watch this tape. This kid's good though. We're missing some tackles. Like Darnell Savage, like last week we praised him, right? And he's missing some of these tackles. And this kid's really good. You got to break down a little bit more. Obviously, you can't turn your body from square to the line of scrimmage, square to the sideline, square to the line of scrimmage, trying to make a tackle. It's just there's a lot going on there. It's very, very difficult. We got a 3rd and 10 play, and we get there. We get the pressure. Great job by beating that left guard again, the rookie left guard. And then Preston comes underneath, and then Rashawn Gary Kenny gets on top of it. It's great, like fantastic. Now, great play design by Coach LaFleur. A lot of times, you're fighting for real estate, right? You're fighting for every blade of grass. That circle out there is space that we can have. And so when you watch these plays and you're up in these bunch motions really close, these near bunch formations really close to the right tackle, somebody's coming out here. You don't know if they're going to run a toss, right? These guys are all leveraged to the outside, unlike we were that last play on the 4th down. But one way or another, you're going to find human beings out towards the sideline, right? There's just too much space. And they just do a great job of creating the environment to be successful. Great play call. Great pass. Love this play by the Falcons. It's just go time. Let's make it happen. Darnell actually gets there using his 4.38 speed. Receiver just makes a good play here. And that's a really, really tough play to come back from, I think, when you do like the double handoff flea flicker deal. I know there's lane. This is a good play call. Sometimes this stuff happens in football. You hope he can make this play. Honestly, good play by the wide receiver. You got 3rd and 8. And then you got your 4th and 4 play here. And everyone's going to be talking about this play. And I saw somebody said this is like a decision by Rashawn Gary. No, it's not. Defenses don't work on, hey, if you feel this is going to happen, then so and so and so and so. There's a numbers game. There's gaps to be played. Okay. Right now, if you have a running quarterback, they have to commit more. In other words, they have to play like man coverage because they have to commit a person to Desmond Ridder. They didn't plan on Desmond Ridder being a scrambler today. They probably should have after watching last week, but they didn't really plan on Desmond Ridder being a guy that they needed to just commit a man to. So in this situation, when they're running this defense and they've got one linebacker in back here with Quay, if they're going to run an RPO, Rashawn Gary, if he dives, Quay's got to come over the top. You either crash and spill, or you sit and then Quay's got to fill because they're going to get a double team. Jake Matthews is going to take the 4-eye. The center and the left guard are going to double team up to the linebacker, and you got single blocks on the other side. That's just how this is run. And they really don't have anybody because they're worried about Pitts making the play in the passing game. They bring a man motion over and they don't really adjust. So this is just a play where it's a numbers game. They've got more than we have. Simple. Right now, if you include the quarterback, they have more people than we do. Now, if Rashawn and Quay are on the same page, Rashawn is crashing right now, and therefore the quarterback has to pull it. So Quay should be over the top immediately making this play. If that is not what is supposed to happen, and Rashawn made a mental error, then he made a mental error. But based on this right here and what he thought was happening, it appears that we're just not on the same page. They have a rule that they're supposed to be using, and they didn't use it. Backside, so we bring 60. We switch tackles. We do all this stuff. We're up by 2. We start running the 4-minute offense in the 4th quarter. 8 minutes left. Bringing the big guy. And he's got a 9 technique, and we just don't get there on the backside cutoff. Again, backside block. This is a good run, by the way, but this is actually not to be greedy. But if you remove that human, there is literally nobody else to make this play. If A.J. Dillon's running free from the backside defensive end, there's nobody on the screen that can make the play. This is a touchdown. This is a house call. 55 is not getting off that block on a full speed play. A lot of questions here. A lot of questions here on this 3rd and 1. A lot of people ask, oh, is he tiptoeing? What's going on? You've essentially got both sides of this from the left tackle. You got a double team with the left guard in the center. Everybody seems to be stepping inside. Now, they're running a scrape game down on the bottom of the screen over the left tackle. Okay? The left tackle looks like he's trying to release inside and then realizes, oh, shoot, I'm going to catch this guy. They run the scrape game. They come downhill on the fullback outside. Hit there. We don't make the play with Royce because Royce is trying to come down on the double. Royce is trying to come back on the double with the center, turns his shoulders, linebacker fires his gun, hits that B gap hard, can't really block him. I mean, there's just no good place for Dillon to go. Would you say, hey, AJ, you just got to make a play there? Yeah, that's your job. You got to make a play there. But just from when I'm looking at schematically how they're blocking it, and again, we got backups in the game. They could be blocking it wrong. That does footwork wise, that did not make it just didn't make any sense. So now we got a fourth down, and we got to find a nickname for this. So Mark Sanchez has the butt fumble, and look, maybe in 2 years from now, you guys will laugh this one off, but this is a pretty bad play. But I don't know what we're going to call this one. But this fourth down look where he does the fakes, the sneak thing, that's, if he comes back and throws for 400 yards, we'll forget about it. How about that? 1st and 10, drive to win the game. Great play action. Got some good push. Drake London makes a good play on, again, zone look, but he's in gyro zone, so he tries to show him up a little bit. You see, actually, the reason I even put this in there was not because of the play, but because look how big this kid is. I mean, that's a big dude. Got 2nd and 5. Nixon's been a great return guy for us and everything. It's 24-22. They're on the 27-yard line to win the game. 3 minutes and 33 seconds left. Man, you better bring it. What is that? What are we doing? That right there is the kind of stuff where you go, we have to have a conversation about what's important. Third and 3. Same thing here. Now, Desmond Ridder just does a really special job here. So Rashawn closes down. Now, you see how Rashawn Gary's square now? In other words, he's played this so I can make either play. He can close that C gap. He can also play Desmond. So Ridder keeps it, turns back. I mean, maybe the play of the game, honestly. Just in terms of now we don't get the ball back with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, right? Because they'll just go ahead and kick the field goal right now. They decide to go for it 4th and inches. And we see, just trying to back this up just a touch. We see the same look. We've seen this play already. Now we've got leverage. Darnell Savage has already seen this play. And they ran the same play. Darnell comes up. And listen, if you're being critical here, the critique would be, because I think Darnell wants him to go back inside of where the help is. But this is what I'm talking about right here. You want to absolutely destroy that blocker who's coming off of another block and has momentum. You want to absolutely murder this guy and make this elusive, special, unique running back stop his feet in the backfield. Okay? That's what's important. If you don't do that and he just has to do a little stutter step, he's just too good. He's just too good a player. They kick the field goal, they win the game. So, real quickly, what I got wrong. I didn't think Drake London would have a big day. He had 6 for 67 and a touchdown. Playing a lot of those plays, zone coverage, over against Jair, touchdown against Jair. You still see, I think, Jay Alexander's sitting here right now, but she's going to let me press up against that guy. I feel real confident in him. I don't want to play, you play off man, give a big man momentum, all these kind of things. I was wrong about that, though. I didn't think I thought he'd have 1 or 2 catches. They played exactly what they did in the first play of the game. Just give him the ball behind the line of scrimmage to get his stats up. I thought that was going to be that kind of game for him. He outplayed my expectations for sure in that situation. The other thing I got wrong was I thought the defensive line was going to overwhelm their offensive line. After watching the Carolina Panthers game and how they just beat the brakes off that offensive line and how much help they had to bring in, I just thought from a game plan standpoint, the way that we prepared to play the tackles in particular just made very, very little sense. The more bull rushes you get on that left guard, that rookie, sometimes doing the same thing over and over isn't fun, but it sure as hell is effective. And we could have been a lot more effective in that part, just doing the basics of pass rush over and over and over again. I was very, very surprised. Quay Walker had 17 tackles, 8 solos. Devondre had 14 total tackles, 7 solos. Your linebackers are making plays. but they're making plays in bunches, and a lot of them are pretty far down the line of scrimmage because Bijan Robinson and company were so good, and we gave those guys an opportunity to do what they do best, which is run the football. They have some tight ends that can run block as well. Jonnu Smith, I think, is a really big talent in this league. He's undervalued. But those are, everything else we kind of saw what was going to happen. It's just a question of whether or not they wanted to get it done. And so how do you get back on track? Offensively, the running game has to improve. Last week, take out the quarterback, 2.9 yards a carry. This week, 3.2 yards a carry. This week, for me, we talked about it. Game plan doesn't make sense. Given your personnel, does not make sense. Don't run against their good. Run against their bad. Execution was poor, particularly on the backside. Some of those head scratchers, the 3rd-and-1 play, it's a head scratcher. Now, they could be executing wrong, but just like, we're not trying to drive a wedge here on a lead play. Defensive line, you've got so much talent. You have to take advantage. When you're playing against an offensive line that I would just say is in the bottom half of the league, you have to take advantage. You took advantage last week with Justin Fields. It seems like now when you watch Justin Fields, you watch him this past weekend, it seems like everybody's taking advantage of him. So you have to kind of reassess how good you felt about yourself because of that Bears game versus now. I think we left a lot of meat on the bone as far as the damage we could have done on the individual level, winning individual matchups in the context of the scheme that they're trying to run. Packers defensive line versus the Falcons offensive line, 33 pass attempts, only 1 sack. Yes, Britter was great. Yes, he was elusive, but we gave up contain. We were too high. There's a lot of things that could have gone better. And then the third thing, just from a game plan standpoint, whether this is a Joe Barry question or schematically, we just leveraged numbers. There were some things that miscommunications. You see the Rashawn Gary play for the touchdown on Ritter. Like, there's some things that aren't right. And that's part of the game, trying to get this stuff right. But again, the high of how you're playing against the Bears and how good you feel, and then the reality of this isn't a top-tier offense, but we made them in some parts of the game look better than they were. Last thing we'll do today, listener questions. I have a couple. I think I've already hit this one. What's wrong with A.J. Dillon? A.J. Dillon is who he is. He lowered his shoulder on some linebackers on a downhill play and made runs. He pushed the pile. He did all that kind of stuff. He's not an elusive shifter running back. He's 250 pounds. He's going to play downhill. If you make him stop his feet behind the line of scrimmage, he's not a very effective player. He hasn't been. He's not regressing. This is just who he is. If you make him stop his feet behind the line of scrimmage, he is not going to get yards for you. The Falcons did a really good job of that by changing the line of scrimmage at the defensive end versus tight end position, by winning one-on-one matchups at the line of scrimmage, Calais Campbell versus our tackles, Grady Jarrett versus our tackles or versus our guards. If you make him stop his feet, he's not as effective. They just did a good job of that. That's all I think that was. Why swap Yash and Walker mid-series? Again, I thought they might be doing that for the U Bacon stuff, but I have no idea. I've never seen it. I've seen people switch in between series. I think that's a bad idea. But some coaches like to do that. They want to develop. I don't know if this is the time to develop in the middle of the game. I don't know if, maybe there's roster bonuses I'm not aware of. But I just think for me, if I was playing, I wouldn't want it. I'd rather be on the if I didn't earn the right to play, then I get that. And the other guy beat me, I get that. If it's like you guys are both doing well, we want to give you both an opportunity. I had to do that with Joe Andruzzi. I never got that. Doesn't make any sense. We both hated it. Why do we run? Why are we so conservative with the lead in the fourth? Listen, every team's got a 4-minute drill. You're just trying to take minutes off the clock, get first downs. You saw when we brought Rashid Walker in, he played in the tight end as a 6-man. It's the age-old problem. If you take your foot off the gas, you give them an opportunity to catch up. It's what you're hoping is you have this like power running game package. So it's like under center, we're running old 96 power load, or you're running your gap stuff. You're running your middle zone. You're running your downhill plays. And then you can run the bootleg. You can run the misdirection, and you just get like the easy passes so you don't stop the clock. You're trying to do that. You're trying to create that. But in order to create that, you have to average 5 yards a carry. You have to be consistent. You have to have a very flat line running game where you're always getting your benchmark. You're not, you don't have a 9-yard carry and a 1-yard carry where your coach is like, I don't know what to call because it's a coin flip every time. Last one here, and this is, people ask about Joe Barry. Listen, this is again one of those games where, and it's at the pro level, you don't really know. So we know, like in that first 4th and 1, the numbers game was wrong. Like they had leverage on us. And then you see the RPO for the touchdown. They've got numbers. Like we don't have a solution for that problem. The solution would be like somebody has to defeat their block and win, right? It's not like we don't have a gap covered up because they're using all 11 players. Then you see on the next 4th and 1, exact same play, and Savage shoots, and we're not taking that guy out. Like that's not a Joe Barry thing. So there's a number of things on this tape, and we don't know what the pass rush. Why are you going so high? Is that a Joe Barry thing to go above the quarterback? Is that a defensive line? Is the defensive line coach saying, "Oh, we want to get around this guy," or do we want to get to this guy and press his outside shoulder so we can push the pocket? I've seen both. People will justify their actions for both. We don't know. We don't know if that's what Egbari thinks is a good idea, or is that what they're being taught? But all this stuff clearly, really a kind of a dose of reality, I think, with a lot of this stuff, coupled with, I think, Desmond Ritter's best game, and then obviously the emerging Bijan Robinson, how talented he is, just set us up for a bad situation. Things will be a lot better with David Bakhtiari, and just for the first sack of the game, I think the only sack the Packers gave up when the linebacker came through on the augmented double-A gap blitz. Bakhtiari picks that play up, ball's out. Like little things like that add up over the course of the game, whether it's, again, field position, hits, you have a little bit of, you remember, it's not PTSD, but you remember plays that happened before, and they kind of sit in the back of your head like, am I going to get hit again? Do I need to get this thing out quick? All those things factor into how the quarterback plays. So a lot of that just can be tempered with, we can take the top off of Christian Watson. Jenkins is back. Bakhtiari's back. Aaron Jones is like, you can get well, but now I think we're going down and playing the Saints. And it's like, can you get well during the against a good Saints team that's probably feeling pretty good about themselves? New quarterback, first real real viable option they've had down there since Breeze. Maybe a couple of years, before Breeze was actually retired. So Carr's a guy that I think you can probably sit there and go, I feel good about our prospects now. So we already talked about what, picking up the pieces, the areas of opportunity, what to get better at. I think really, I'm always get back to the basics of the sport. Get really good at filling your lane. Get really good at defeating blocks, tackling, footwork. Easy sport, man. Mike Wahle 68 on Twitter, Process Perform Instagram. Hit that like button if you're enjoying this. You guys have a great week. See you at the end of the week with the Saints preview.